So the image you're looking at attracted me because of the contrast, the almost dark interior and the brightness outside. And for some reason, this sort of spoke to me. But then I wondered where it was and what had really inspired it. And Kate was very kind to share with me that this is a view out of the window of a guest room in her brother's home in New England. And armed with that amount of information and my imagination, the rest of it comes too from my window. I most love morning in Peter's guest room, when the east window bathes me in morning sun. I wrap a shawl against the nor'easter chill, lean forward from the single bed's edge, elbows propped on the 100-year sill. Perspective percolates from my window. The poplar branches wave a morning greeting. The autumn leaves, their nourishing work done, unmask keratines, yellows and gold, dried and curled, bereft of chlorophyll, stems barely hold against the autumn cold. Samsara spirals from my window. Newburyport is home to seafaring folk, captains and admirals. Seasoned salt stood tall. Young ensigns, first lieutenants, choked back fears. Some stayed the storms. Some souls rest in the deep. Mansions and widow walks, joys and tears. History haunts my window. New England sea breeze carries sound to the city. The pistons chug from an old steam engine fades as the lobster boat rounds the head. Every day is Friday when dinner comes from the sea, when one lobster buys 3 loaves of bread. Burdens borne from my window. Sunday silence shatters as congregational bells chime. Yoked clappers sound the cast bronze bowls in white steeples that tower towards heaven. Red doors open and affirming, Necco wafer colors on Victorian clapboard, our rainbow flags leaven. Freedom found from my window. My mind's eye dims to enjoy what my eyes see true. The neighbor's pastel blue boards, white frames, steep roof. Our soft orange paint lightly reflects in his window panes. The vase, molded by artist hands, yearning for fresh flowers. The small lamp, my comfort as the dark night passed. Life, real and imagined, from my window.
As far as Ron's poem about my painting is concerned, he captured everything I feel about that place when I go to visit it, and I really have nothing else to add. I'm wondering though, Lori, is Alinda here for the next?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'd much rather have Alinda read her poem before I say a word about my painting.
Alinda, could you read your poem? Oh, sure.
Thanks.
What have you done to my poor, wild heart? The July heat, a holocaust so fiery and unbearable, even the trees were holding their breath. Still, she struggled into her corset and green wool dress to stand behind the counter at Grinnell Brothers and talk opera to the Jewish pharmacist who came in every day, who she hoped had no clue about Yoopers and how she had raised her 7 siblings on her own and fled when she was 16, swearing she would push off any man who came too near. She'd learned art with her father. But then, there he was, no ring on his finger, and she violated her own vow when she told him she worked here only because she was paying her own way through nursing school. And when he asked which one, almost let her heart fly out of her throat, but instead pulled La Boheme out of its jacket and placed it on the turntable, and as it spun, tried not to picture herself with his hand on her waist as she wobbled in her high heel shoes, and then wrapped it as carefully as she would have an infant in its blanket, as he laid his cash on the counter and smiled at her in such a way that she knew she was forever lost. The very idea of glass splintering under his heel and a canopy over their heads, as remote as the word shiksa must be to him. And the rhythm of the next customer drumming his fingers on the counter to command her attention as the bell on the door reminded her that the pharmacist was gone too soon once again, almost before he even came in. Nice to meet you too.
We're just meeting here on the stage. I loved this poem. I loved its long narrative. I'm very literal-minded, and it suited my temperament. My question to you is, did she ever see him again? Yes? No?
Yes.
I asked Alinda, and she said she'd rather leave it open. I had said, by all means, leave it open if you want. My options when I wanted to, you take a poem like that with that long story, what do? My husband said, just paint a girl in a green dress. And that's where I began. But as I proceeded, I'm not sure that what I produced was art, but what I produced was a lot of fun to compose. It turned out to be a collage. I think of myself as not a person who does collages, but Laurie and the pastor had made available piles and piles of old messiahs. And I very carefully selected the appropriate words from the verses of the Messiah. And I made a story up about this, in an attempt to illustrate this poem, which you can't see probably all the details of here, but here we go. So we're moving left to right because we read that way. We're moving from top, where the Upper Peninsula is, down. I did this on the background of just a smearing of different colors that had no particular form. And so I used some of those colors and converted them to forms. So the red splash up there became a fist and became the representation of the Father. And I cut little pieces out of the Messiah. They'd say, a son is born, 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 a son is born. And then in the middle, oh daughter, for the girl having raised 7 children. She is, or he is, marching away. She, spinning on a record, makes it down to the Lower Peninsula, puts on her green dress despite the heat, and meets the Jewish pharmacist who is represented here. Oh, here, I bore unto you, a Savior shall come, or something like that is picked out from the Messiah in the middle. The hand, I tried to make representational of a chuppah, and it had the shape of a wine glass in the middle of it, smashed at the bottom. So it's just, and the concentric circles moving out explain why I gave the title that I did. These are the remnants of the original splashing of different colors, and they reminded me of a map. And I figured she'd be going on to other things sooner or later, but who knows where. She has options.
I had just come from a concert that blew me away, and in November when we first met, I looked at all the pictures and I thought they were wonderful, and then suddenly I saw this one and I thought, oh my God, a detonation. That's what it is. I didn't realize it was a flower. I saw it as a kaboom. And then later I saw it as a flower, and that works. I was puzzled by the title, but I was also inspired by it. I went home and wrote the poem first because I didn't want to have the title constrain my poem, and I looked it up later. I'll tell you what it is. The poem, Duplicating Impulse. At the concert, they sit at a little table with a little flickering lamp between them, fingers almost touching, and he should not be with this woman, but he is. His heart in wild improv, scherzo detonations in the bass line, and zydeco swips, swooping into higher registers, with notes as delicate as Mardi Gras beads falling onto glass-top tables. And oh, his poor, poor heart, now in monsoon medley, enough to ruin any Steinway, even before the famous New Orleans jazz pianist sits down to destroy it on his own. And he knows there are people in the audience who will see him. And the streets outside, in the dark light of the new moon, will lead him back to a hotel, riptides in his veins, still roiling to Ravel and Gershwin, and a rare Cherokee tsunami that will knock him sideways, pull him even deeper. Now, what drew me into this poem in the first place, I was at a concert, as you might imagine, and I saw somebody I thought I knew, but he was with a woman who was not his wife. And he happened to look my way and see me, and he looked miserable. He looked downright miserable. I think he hadn't planned to see me, but even so, I think he was torn by the situation that he was in. So I tried to be sensitive to what I was seeing when I wrote that. However, then I went home and I looked up duplicating impulse. Well, here's what I found. Duplicating impulse, a printing technique for making precise replications of images or text. A military term for repeated detonations. Simultaneous diverging emotions, such as shame or guilt. Or in music, with noise and musical tones lying along a spectrum from irregular to periodic sounds. And this was written in 1985 in a collection called The Discoverers by Daniel Boorstin.
So this is the poem that I wrote, and she picked this poem. So if you remember, maybe when you were little, and you used to have a globe, and then you would spin the globe, and then you stop it at a certain place, and see what the place was that you stopped. Anybody? Okay. Well, my son loved to do that. My youngest, and he would play that game all the time. So this poem is to him about that. And I have to say, when I looked at this, it's just like it's perfect. It's just I'm so sad that she's not here to talk about how it worked, but it really makes me happy, which is a good thing. So. Born in Madeira, die in Iceland. All morning you play the game of spinning the globe with one hand and stopping it with the fingers of the other. Born in Egypt, die in Mongolia. Born in Saudi Arabia, die in Colombia. The sun shivers in a hazy sky. Clouds shudder and jump, shower into view, and then fail away, thin and gray and pink. And all the while, you drift over land and sea, cool and taut, bobbing up and down through seaweed and silt, a smiling, quiet boy, all warm blue and wet earth. Parts of you see, parts hear, parts walk, parts swim, and no part thinks. And I know this is bliss, here in your hands, going round and round, born in Poland, die in Romania, born in Tibet, die in Greenland, over and over until you get it right. Born in Pacific Ocean, die in Black Sea, born in North Pole, die in Burma, until it sounds good. Born in Sea of Akkad, die in Morocco. That's very interesting. I really wish Celeste were here, and I'm going to be talking to her, meeting with her. But yeah, that works. I like the way that she did that. So the next piece, I responded to, I'm so sad that he's not here, Ed Marsh. I love his work. Awesome work. Oh, here it is. Okay. So let me just tell you something about this. So, you know, when we were there the first day, we had to pick numbers, and then we could pick a picture, pick what we wanted. Oh my God. I had been walking around, and I just saw this Daphne Enmity, this woman. And right away in my mind, it was there. I had to have this picture. I had to have it. Of course, you know, and luckily I think I picked number 2 or something. So there it was. And I guess if you just looking at her, just such a landscape of desolation, despair in her, and then with the colors, it's just so moving and so stunning and so haunting. Now, so I knew I had to write about it, and as soon as I started, I didn't bring it up, though. I had different drafts that I did, I was going to show, but it doesn't matter. So I had just drafts of all these things, and then I came up with this. And so, actually, Ed told me when we talked about this, that this Daphne was an actual person. She was a prisoner in New South Wales in 1924. And he found a picture of her, just a little black and white picture of her that he saw. Muriel had that same look. And so she was desolate and desperate. Anyway, so we know that about her. And a lot of my work, I'm working on a novel right now, and it's done in different dialects, so that I'm using, you know, Welsh dialect and Irish dialect and all the dialects. So this just spoke to me. And what you need to know about it, I suppose, is that there's a young boy, and he is in the kitchen, and this painting is hanging up in the kitchen, and he's talking to his mother, and he's looking at the picture, and he's talking to his mom, asking her stuff about this picture. And so the title is On First Looking at a Painting of His Aunt Daphne, Prisoner, New South Wales, 1924. Daphne be her name, Ma? Part of her be in me blood? Be she summit to me? Summit means something, if you know. Be she summit to me? I didn't know a woman so lost to the world of day and night, and light and dark, that she stuns this boy who looks at her. Sea blue pushes all round her eyes, but she be looking gone, Ma. She moonless there in a dead life, all stamped with the hay of meadows, dried up when she were a girl, and red rose lips from words in a fairy tale that ends in a way I cannot think for the nightmare pull of it. Be she in my blood, Ma, a relation or something? Her burnt marsh hair uneven chopped, near brushed by a sweet Ma humming violet tunes. Why she be looking out at me? Not to see what be in front of her, but to spill out the harm she has become because of the loss in her, the grief. Be she empty, Ma, of all we have here in this life, within and without, alive and breathing, ready to see the sun rise the next day on the iris and bluebells, the lilacs and tulips, the clumps of daffodils we bury our noses in, while the air moves round our cheeks and necks and bellies and toes, the bread and yellow butter we eat. She has not had this flower naming, this flesh rolling, this tongue tasting, She has not heard the sparrows sing to her, all wings aflutter and beaks cooing, as she walks along the river, humming to herself, toes wet. Be it that way, Ma. Daphne be a name watery pure, but that fine name be taken from her long ago. Be she wounded bad like the stray lamb who fell into that trap last month, we could not save for all the blood of it? In all me soft places she has punched me hard. I don't know if I will wander again where the laurel leaves blink, and all I think of be the shimmering trees and the milky tea you be offering me when I return home, whole and clover covered. Ah, Ma, be she in me deep where my heart beats and the tea warms me body, part of her being me blood? I want to give her somewhat fine now, Ma, some sugary flower bird song. I want to see her croon and twirl, a sinless tune warbling in the sun, flushed with roses. She will slowly raise her head in our blossom-sprigged kitchen, and we will take her with us outside to hear the sparrows and the finches. On this morn here, twinkling light on the purple asters and the green grass, we will rush and grab onto her hand and look up to the sky, and we all together will be lifted to follow the bird call into the no-sound silence where all be wild and loose and joyous. Daphne be her name, Ma. Part of her being me blood, she be summat to me.
Ode to my half-brother. You had my blood, my eyes, and my smile, but you lived in your own world. Your brain only made it to the age of 3, but your body carried you through the years, through the seasons of pain, passing over lawns, fallen leaves blowing across our future. The clock inside you moved with sorrowful slowness, but outside you changed from day to day. Now I sit in a cold room about a quarter of a mile from where we were both born. And we started in the same place, but we ended up complete strangers to ourselves. I know now that I don't know anything about anything. I do not even know where you are, or if you're even alive. But I will always remember you were once a young boy, left all alone on a cold floor in a housing project on the east side of Detroit, and that is where you will always live in my mind. A simple child all alone in 1950s America. This picture I really liked. I picked this one by Linda Allen because it looks to me like what I would imagine in my mind the psychedelicized Strawberry Field to be. But a lot of people here know that I'm into the Beatles and all that. And I actually go to Liverpool at least once every year for the last 20 years, sometimes twice a year, which is the Holy Land. And many times I go to the Holy Land, and after I'm done with doing things in Liverpool, I fly over to Israel to the other Holy Land. So I get to go to 2 Holy Lands in like a month. So anyway, so I go to Strawberry Fields all the time when I'm there, and so I just kind of came out to me, and so this poem goes with it, called The Bone of Memory. And the quote, the epigraph is, "Nothing is real," John Lennon. Breathe in, hold for a few seconds. This is the time in your life that rests against the back of your soul. Feel it and hold. Envelop yourself in the emptiness surrounded by the openness of this world. Feel its brokenness, hold. Desperation filling the muddy waters with blessed breath and flowing color out beyond the bone of memory. Draw in, hold. One last time, allow your blood to run through the stars of your life and then drift up and away. Let go, freedom, forever rushing water over the bones of the holy, beyond mercy and grace. Let them live forever in silence. Thank you.
I'm so impressed that he got Strawberry Fields from it and got the idea and what he wrote. My design, for that series, I named all the watercolors pretty much song titles. And I've got music in me, and I think it comes out in my design and my art, and I think that's so appropriate. Tonight has just been wonderful. The music in me is very appreciative and respectful, and the power of words and images overwhelm me. And thank you.
And I wanted to say, I know a lot of people have already said this, but thank you so much to Tam and to Lori and Mary and the church for putting this wonderful program together and supporting the arts and supporting literature. Wish we had more of this in Metro Detroit and really in the world, because we do need it. And it was wonderful working with Nabucco. I've known her as an artist for many, many years and admired her work. And so it was really so exciting to have a chance to work with her and to see her amazing work that came out of my poem. And then I had a chance to respond to one of her pieces as well. I'm going to start out with The Magician, because Nabucco then responded to that with this really amazing image. You have to see it in person. If you haven't already, please stop by the gallery on your way out, because you really do have to see all of the artworks in person. You just have to appreciate all of the wonderful details. When I wrote this poem, it was with political intent, but at the same time, I also wrote it kind of hoping that it would live beyond this time that we're in, and so I'm hoping that it will still have some sort of meaning or resonance decades from now, and so that was kind of my thinking behind it. The other thing too is that one of the things that I love about poetry and about art is the fact that everyone brings their own perspectives to something, whether they're a reader or whether they're looking at a painting or a sculpture. And we all bring our own individual perspectives and lives and experiences to bear. And so I just love the fact that we can see different things in a piece of art or a work of literature. So that's, so I'm all for people having different interpretations of things. This is called The Magician. The magician uses sleight hands to pull a red-orange hair out of his hat. The hat becomes a scarf, covering up a cobra devouring a rabbit. The magician draws focus to the apparition, away from the hidden strings. The audience has paid dearly, and they expect a show for it. Crowds come from miles and miles. The handymen and laundresses, still in well-worn work clothes. The shop owners in sleek, tailored suits with sharp, pressed edges. They insist the magic is real. They deny the levers, the pulleys behind the red velvet curtain. The most fanatical among them deny the curtain itself as an illusion, proof of the magician's powerful magic. The magician's watchful blonde assistant opens and closes cabinets, flashes a snow-blind smile, showers the crowd with smoke and glitter that doesn't wash away.
a calliope announces the magician's second act. He whistles a folk tune. He doesn't know the lyrics. Ignore the silver syrup dripping from his tongue. It's only mercury. I'm honored if Nabucco might offer her thoughts on her work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. I'm honored to be here today. I enjoy to make this art. The first, what should I do? And then make a sketch of the magician face, and then smiling. He holding the word. I am printmaker, so I carve out the magician's face, and then only one board, one color, and then with gray. And then after that, I got the idea to use the paper, and then two kind of paper together, and then I enjoy what's a cracker? This is a musical instrument, and then. The Dragon Day, I went to the north, the October 13th, the beautiful, the fall color. So I got the image of the color, the collage of the orange images. So this photo looks like a black dot, but basically you can see the actual work is silver and the sticker, and they just put together to make a nice collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Nabucco. And then it's interesting because we didn't plan this, but I happen to have picked Nabucco's beautiful piece here when I was selecting, and then she had ended up picking one of my poems. So it was just kind of a happy accident that we ended up picking each other. But I think it worked out really well. The piece by Nabucco that you see, and once again, I definitely encourage people to go see it in person. It's a really beautiful and serene piece, and it's of course it's a winter scene. And I guess for me, it's interesting because somehow out of this really beautiful, serene image, I got this really sort of sad vibe, and that was me bringing that to the piece, not necessarily Nabucco. I will let her speak to the piece, but as someone who has lost a number of family members, the holidays are both happy and bittersweet for me. As they are, I think, for a lot of people. So I wrote the poem that I entitled Silent Night in response to Nabucco's piece, and I'm going to read it now. Silent Night. The sharp edges of stars pierce the winter dark, cut through soft tissue of wrapping paper hearts. Amber lamplight bleeds from a gaping front window where no one watches and waits up for you now. The winter house at dusk huddles cold and still, the path inside obscured by the first glittering snowfall. Front porch carolers converge in harmony, but in those sweet voices you hear only bitter refrains. Scenes of togetherness unfold in seasonal greetings, but stores don't sell cards with holes or missing parts. You cannot prepare for this storm. Flashlights and blankets fall far short of comfort. You wrap and rewrap it, but no one wants your grief. It is yours alone. So many empty chairs pressed against the holiday table. So many voices silent as ghosts. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
this piece, this is second one. The original piece is purple sky, and then the monotone, the gray and the black. The location is my old house in the Doi Court, Grosse Pointe Ward. And I got the idea from the ukiyo-e master Yoshida Hiroshi. He made a lot of the one piece and then the several other images from the original. So I got the idea, so they try to change the time. The original was morning and this piece is the evening. So I carve out the orange area, it's another board, and they change the color a little bit. So that I'm very happy to Michelle made my art with the poem. So I'm very, very happy to hold this piece. Thank you very much.